good evening. Welcome to Modern Spiritual. I'm Aeson Knight, and joining me tonight is Astrid. How are you, dear?
Hello. Yeah, I'm perfect. I'm really excited for this new year. So I'm really starting it with a good energy, and yeah, so I'm definitely awesome and riding on that wave of the new happy year. Hopefully,
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
the year of the rabbit or the cat. I haven't figured out because there's two different zodiac animals, and it's been quite interesting. Looking at the different systems, says like it's the year of the cat for a certain set. It's the year of the rabbit. For those wondering, we're taping on the new moon, so that it takes off that year. So, how'd you get into reading and the whole psychic stuff?
Well, it's something that I almost feel like this is a little bit of a cliche that when I said I actually started when I was really young, but I actually did. I got my first oracle deck when I was about 7 or 8. It wasn't anywhere in my family. I didn't have a magical grandma who was into this, sadly. I'm coming from like very normal, very unspecial family. And I just started when I was 7 and 8. I just saw an oracle deck in a shop and then just kind of start snowballing from there. Then I would take it to school, and I first would do reading for my classmates, and then I would do readings for the teachers, and then I would do reading for the parents of my classmates, and it just kind of a snowball from there, and ended me up where I'm currently going. So cards been a part of my life basically like
What
majority of my life.
what type of deck?
The first one I got was not tarot, was this like really weird obscure deck that was based on the major arcana. And then when I was 15 and 16, I got my full tarot deck, which was traditional right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kind of got from there. I realized that I vibe better with the clones of Rider Waite than the Rider Waite itself, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of is the imagery I found a little bit flat at some points. So and then I've also done I also could read Tough Deck, and then it just kind of I start collecting them and
Mm-hmm.
realizing I don't read majority of the ones I collected. I just like keep rotating.
True. I think I have like
Yeah.
the two totes full, so that's at least 400 decks, and I gravitate to specific decks for a period. And then I get into like periods where I just read, like, I'll get this one client that's like, oh no, hold up, we've got to go and grab the, light workers deck to really get into this. Do you do that also as a deck collector?
I usually also have decks I read for like a period of time, and then I come back to some old ones, and
Hmm.
sometimes I just kind of refresh them. But I like to combine them with Lenormand on runes, especially runes. I like to collect like I like to combine a tarot with runes. So when I'm doing a reading, I will just through a couple cards. I read always freestyle, so I
Hmm.
don't really follow specific card spreads. I just throw some cards, almost like cast them like you would runes, and then just read
Right.
it from there. And then just got a couple of runes and throw it in there. I'm a very freestyle person when it comes to readings, and then just kind of
Right.
see how the runes play together with the cards and how it kind of all blends together. But yeah, I love combining tarot with other systems like Lenormand or runes. It can really give you like more layers or unexpected layers to that reading that are just like kind of different language than the tarot normally would be. So yeah, I definitely love experimenting with that.
I do too. I like that also. I use Angel and Ascended Master and Black Moon Astrology. You mentioned the Letterman card, the Lebanon card. Say it. I'm messing the word up. I'm sorry.
Lenormand.
Yes. How different is that to the tarot?
Surprisingly different. It's people sometimes think that Linneman is just like the other tarot, but in reality, the Linneman has a very different language. It's more, I would say, it's more down to earth, and it's way more focused on like good or solid fortune telling.
Okay.
where the answer from tarot would be something like, oh, there is a transformation coming and starting new chapter coming with new opportunities. The Lenormand will tell you there is going to be a guy that is very loyal guy that's coming from an official job.
Right.
Like, there is very little spiritual overlaps in Lenormand.
Well,
It's
and that's
it's a,
awesome because I think tarot readers a lot of times, especially I, is like, okay, that is like the broad spectrum of the chapter. It's nice to know that we're on a path. Give me a little more, you know. And that's when I have a deck called the Black Tarot, and I pull it every time I've got to get down and dirty. It's like it's going to get down and dirty on you. But that's that deck's energy is that very much like there's a guy, he's a cheater, we're going to run him over, you know, and then you get a new guy that's much more passionate. Um, so I like the Lebanon. I've been studying it. I'm having to. One of the problems I have with it is it gets so transverse with another fringe deck called the Fortune Teller. It's just Fortune Teller Tarot. Fortune Teller cards. Yeah, it's just Fortune Teller cards. They get very cross. It's like they are a off-brand of the Lebanon cards. You know, they're a little bit more hokey, I would say. What's been your experience, though, as you've moved through these systems? Do you find them crossing easy, or is it like, oh no, this is a whole different playing field for you?
I think that it was a whole different playing field. Like runes are the language of runes is very different than the language of tarot, and the language of Lenormand is very different than the language of tarot. And I actually do have I love collecting weird and obscure divinatory systems. So I have like all sorts of like really super weird cards that I even collected when I was traveling through different parts of the world. So I have like a really weird Spanish local cards that make very little sense, but they're really cool. And yeah, all sorts of that. Um, I actually enjoy the fact that it's completely different. I enjoy the fact that I'm diving into something that is completely different than what I'm used to. It really drags me out of my divinatory comfort zone. And because I feel like it makes me even better reader when I come back to tarot, because it just expands my understanding. It gets me out of that stereotype, because I realize that, and I think this is something most readers will be dealing with. If you're reading tarot on a daily basis, which often I do because I work as a tarot card reader, you tend to like be like got certain card. It's like, oh yeah, that means this, and oh yeah, that means this, and you sometimes it has many layers, but you don't really go into them because you just used to read the cards in a certain way. And if I got myself out of that and just dive into completely new system, I tend to like come back to the tarot and just seeing a different layers I haven't seen before and start reading it slightly differently. So I think it's good to kind of do that to get out of the stereotype. So it's sometimes completely different language, and I'm finding it sometimes hard to transition from one system to another, especially if I'm learning new one. It's totally hard because like you need to like switch your brain and just start thinking about things and connect them in a different way. But I think that's brilliant, and that's one of the reasons why I like to do it so much.
Yeah, and I think that's inherent to keeping your psychic mind agile, is being able to switch
Yeah.
systems and be able to switch different modalities, not only for your clients but also for you, because it's like watching the same movie 300 times in a day or 400 times a day. Girl meets guy, guy cheats, girl runs him over with a car. Now you got to sort out, you know, what she's going to do for her next picture. Now, you make a statement I make all the time. I don't do sugarcoating. I'm not a donut. Um, do you find it hard?
It really depends on the person that I'm reading for. And
Mm-hmm.
it sometimes really also depends how much time I have with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like if I tell people that it's better to get at least 10-minute readings,
Mm-hmm.
so I can more tune into their energy, then it's not that hard because I can connect with them and they connect with me. And we can, if I'm saying something that is challenging or difficult, if we have a little bit more time, then we can work through, let's say, how to go about it, what to do with it. We can just kind of like work with the situation that otherwise they might just have. That if I'm doing really short readings, which sometimes I do, like a 5 minute, sometimes even or less, then it's difficult because I just tell them, well, he's not coming back, but then I don't have enough time to kind of work through the situation and work for their options and make it better.
Right. And
so then it's hard because then they might be upset because I'm telling them something they don't want to hear. But I'm like, well, yeah, but like this information is just starting point. We can work with it and see what's your options in the situation. What is the best thing to do? How to make it better. So I would say it really depends on the situation, and it really depends on the length of the reading.
Right. I agree with you on the 10 to 15 minutes for reading. And that is like covering 3 questions. You got to realize we got to get into your life, figure out what the cards are saying. For me, I'm clairvoyant. So for me, it's like, okay, I got to figure out what the hell I'm looking at. Am I looking at him at work, you at work, who's in the car, who the players in the scene is. So I agree, a 10 to 15 minute reading. If you want more than, no, he ain't coming back and stop being an asshole, what else can we do?
Yeah. It's yeah. So I would say it doesn't have to be difficult. Obviously, like occasionally, it doesn't happen very often. I must say that it doesn't happen, at least to me, as often as, like, I think lots of people might think that I would get somebody who would just come to me and says, okay, do me tarot reading, but I only want to hear the good stuff. It happened to me a few times. But yeah, well, it doesn't happen that often. But obviously, if somebody comes with that, it's difficult. But I would say most people do have an understanding that, if you're going to a tarot card reader, you are coming there because you want to know if there is some bad stuff. And if there is, then what is the best way, how to navigate through it, so we can at least, if we cannot with our actions prevent it from happening, then at least make it better. Make the soft landing, padded the landing.
Yeah, and that's why it takes that 10 minutes to not only get you through that soft landing, but also your next chapter if it's a relationship. Job. Because I look at it as kind of like Google. Like we can give you the steps to get out of traffic and get to your destination quicker if you give us time to calculate and go, okay, you need to A, start going to the gym, B, start taking care of yourself, C, stop dating men that start with this name because it's bad. Now, one of the things that I was interested is you're actually a soulmate expert. We'll be talking about that as soon as we get back from our break. But how'd you get into that?
Lots of no, I think that it just kind of came through just doing a tons of reading. Man, I'm doing this for Jesus Christ, like as a daily, like a business, like my daily business job. I'm doing this for close to 10 years. I'm doing literally thousands of readings, and basically from that experience, a lot of them happens to be a soulmate connections that are difficult, and the person involved, they're trying to make sense out of this connection, and they feel like they need a psychic to help them with it because that connection that they are currently experiencing is just usually having ups and downs, and they just can't make sense out of it. So just purely me doing so many readings on this topic, I would say, hey, you know what? After doing like 15,000 readings on soulmates, I think I can call myself somebody who actually maybe knows something about this.
Right.
So that's how I got to it. It was basically like, okay, people are coming to me, asking me about these things all the time. There is something within me that I guess just kind of makes them feel like I'm the person who have the answers. So it wasn't me getting into it. It was like, okay, this is what the world, the universe, the people, this is where I'm wanted. So I guess I do it, type of a situation.
Very cool. Very cool. And you also work with twin flames. What's the difference for you what's your opinion of the difference?
I would say that from my experience, I'm not saying that this is 100% and only truth, but from my experience, I'm noticing the soulmates tend to be a bit more peaceful connections that are enhancing, definitely. Like we learn from each other and we talk, and you're making me better, you are making my life better, you're inspiring me to raise myself up. So it feels more like beneficial connection that is just helping two people grow, but in more like a positive way. Where
Mm-hmm.
it seems like the twin flames, that just seems to be like significantly more roller coaster like situations.
Ah.
Like it's like from my experiences, connections that are tend very dramatic, very painful, is a situation when the people's often want to separate, but they're having a hard time to keep apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like these high highs and low lows, and through this cycles of the high highs and low lows, that the people grow.
Ah.
And I noticed that it's way more dramatic. It can be way more painful,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not in a situation when we are like raised, like growing together in a positive way. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just like we are creating this insane, painful, and amazing emotional chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, we are discarding a lot of blockages. We are discarding a lot of unserving patterns, and we are cleansing from things that don't serve us, and we grow, but it's more like in more severe way. That was at least my experience with it, that it's just kind of more dramatic with the twin flame connections.
Okay, well, let's take a break and we'll be back.
I found out that my husband had been cheating on me, and my whole world turned upside down.
I stressed over any and everything, constantly waiting for the next shoe to drop.
I was attracted to a psychic advisor to get clarity.
I was like, there's no way that's real. But the things that were coming up felt so accurate.
I really need that unbiased, non-judgmental advice. If there's some part of your life that is not quite fitting in, you maybe want to try something that you haven't tried before.
All right, welcome back. So we were talking about soulmates and twin flames, and it sounds to me like I would prefer a soulmate than a twin flame, because I'm going to kill a twin flame, and then I have to call you to ask where to bury the body. Speaking of weird readings, and what has been your most memorable?
That wasn't on any of the zodiac platforms. That was way before I even one of my first readings online, but like 7 years ago, on completely different platforms. And that was when we got a reading with a woman, and she was like talking about job or something, and then she got really upset at me, and I didn't understand why. And she started telling me that she's going to send a jaguar god to get me and eat me. And she was very serious about it. I think it was one of my most memorable readings. When I'm just like, why Jaguar God? What have I done? And I just didn't understand. So I think it was one of my very memorable readings. That when, sometimes I have people coming to me and says, "Hey Astrid, I have this problem, and it's really weird." I'm like, "Is it weird? They're more weird than a Jaguar God?" I doubt it. So come on, like show me the stuff. I'll show you I've seen worse. And and yeah, so after this year, after so many years, I'm really hard to surprise. Like I've seen it all. Like you don't have to be afraid to just get your dirty laundry and just wash it in. I've seen it all. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
So it's not more weird than a jaguar god. So that was definitely one of the more memorable ones, and some of the memorable ones was, I remember this one to this day, and that was when I was doing physical readings in London when I was living in London. I got people who came to me. It was a couple, and they had some couple issues, and we talked about it, and they came back like 4 5 months after, and they told me that the woman is pregnant, and they actually told me that they do credit me with the baby, not because I've done it, but because I helped them to resolve the problem in the relationship, because they seem to be like on the break of breaking up. So they said, well, because you helped us with the reading, kind of then led towards her getting pregnant and just kind of to the existence of the baby. So I thought that's nice. I feel like I can create myself with like a there's like baby somewhere in London, currently about 7-year-old, that is, I can credit myself partially for its
Right,
existence.
because that's an important point. Children will not enter until it's the right situation for
Yeah.
them. It may not be the right situation for you, but if you're creating problems, they're just going to sit around and wait. Like, are you done? Can we, like, get some structure here in this relationship so I can get moving?
I think that babies are interesting thing. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of readings are questions about babies. I think in many cases come when you're ready for them, not when you think you're ready for them.
Hmm. Right, because you have to be entered into a series of lessons that they actually came to learn to even be interested in involving with you. So, when looking at your reading styles and things, you've also now developed courses. What are some of those courses about?
Well, I was somebody who was basically teaching from my early 20s. I studied photography, so already when I was at university, I would actually teach photography. So when I decided to ditch photography, teaching was something I already had like years of experience with. So, it just, I go with the flow, and I know lots of people will resonate with me. I just roll with the punches that the
Right.
world kind of throws at me, and I'm just trying to make a lemonade out of it. So when I ditched photography, I was like, well, I like tarot cards, I like spirituality, and I have years of experience as teaching. Oh, maybe I can put these things together. So I did, and I started teaching physical classes when in London. I was a speaker, guest speaker on Pagan Conference in London. It was fun. I'm still hoping they're doing these because they've been absolutely amazing. You just got pagans around, walking around and offering chalices with med to random people. Brilliant, love that.
Yep.
Well, when then the world moved online and my readings moved exclusively online, so I'm like, well, I guess I just get the teaching and move it online too.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I got to it, and it's I see it as pretty much exactly the same thing I was doing in my physical classes, and I love teaching physical classes, and I am trying to bring some of that into my online courses. That like the fun of the physical classes
Right.
about spirituality. So it was for me. It was yet again like completely natural progress of my life, how I kind of got into it, and yeah, and then I realized people are really interested in it. People love to learn more about these things. There is interest in it, so I wanted to create courses that would be unbiased, something that is very, because there's lots of bias and superstitions and ideas about things. I just want to make simple, to the point, and just let people experiment with the tools they just learned and find their own path. So that was my idea behind the online courses and the physical teachings when I was teaching physical classes.
Ah. And yeah, how much did it, I don't know, for me, the, Panini really changed my career. What about you?
Sorry, what changed your career?
The Panini, I went from being physical and in person,
Uh,
30% of the time to that's like, no, I don't do in person. You can reach me online. What about you?
I would say that it made my life easier, and it made it when I did it, and when I was doing physical classes in London, and when I've done many physical readings in London, I just felt to me that I just could connect with the people that have been connected with me through space. So it was again mostly people from London who would go to the classes, and mostly people from London who would get the readings. But
Hmm.
when I went online, I just could connect with people all over the world. And when I'm doing the courses, people from all over the world can take them. And when I do reading, people who resonate with me from all over the world, and they can get reading with me. So I would say that maybe it did not change that much my physical working throughout the day, because I would work on behind computer majority of the time if it's scheduling, preparing of the course.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that was happening all like behind computer anyway. I would just then for 2 hours just move myself somewhere and did the reading or did the class somewhere physically. So the only difference was that instead of me moving myself and traveling hour and a half across the whole London to to deliver somewhere a class, I would just do it online. So for me, it wasn't that much of a change in terms of how I function on a daily basis, but
Mm-hmm.
it was big change for me that I can, and I love that, connect with people more on base of like energetical connection and resonance rather than, okay, I'm in London and you are in London.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I love it more because I think that people who resonate with me can connect with me no matter where they live.
Right. And it's, allows you to not only that, but they're able to take the class whenever. Like, I don't have to be in the mood to teach my classes. It occurs. You click
Yeah.
the video, it's there. I love that online presence, that online availability. Now, are you still in London or did you move?
No. I moved back to Czech Republic after living in London for 8 years.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, London is a very expensive city.
Very much so.
And it's really busy, and I already been there for 8 years, and I kind of did what could have been done was done there
Right.
when it comes to my career. So I was just felt okay. Let's just move to somewhere peaceful and focus on building up things online. So yeah, I'm back. I'm back in Prague, in Czech Republic.
Okay, in Prague. How's it different in the industries comparatively?
London is significantly more competitive. It
Uh-huh.
just feels well. It makes sense. It's a big city.
Right.
London felt like it's way more competitive, and it seems like a lot of the spirituality I experienced in London,
Mm-hmm.
especially around the West London, was like a spirituality that was specifically targeted at rich people. And
Right.
it was kind of even molded in a way that was supposed to reflect the ideas of these people just so you can they sell them more stuff. And
Mm.
it's just I just could not now that just wasn't what I wanted to do. And then other but what I liked about London and England or UK in general is that they're amazing pagan communities. And they're amazing. The pagans, the Wiccans there, these are just these lovely middle-aged people with tie-dye shirts who just like are just hugging trees and they play drums and they sing with you and they're super friendly communities. So I've really loved the pagan and the Wiccan communities in London, which is not something that would be very much here in the same extent.
Really?
Definitely not as friendly. They're super, super, super friendly. If somebody is in UK, go and connect with these people. They are awesome.
Mhm.
And here it's different. Here there is definitely a lot of spirituality because Czech Republic is one of the most atheistic countries in the whole world. Like church here does not exist. Like it's literally Christianity is basically an absolutely non-existent problem here, and so it gives a space to a lot of alternative approaches to spirituality.
Okay.
So I would say Buddhism is very popular here, like super popular. Eastern studies is very popular here.
Uh,
Angel cards, that New Age spirituality is super popular here. Witchcraft too, but I would say here a majority of the people I would say are more into like angel stuff and like, but not like Catholic Church angel stuff, more like Doreen Virtue style angel New Age and spirituality, drumming, shamanic circles, this type of stuff. So it's definitely it's way more visible here. Nobody feels any need to hide anything because there is literally no church anywhere to telling you shouldn't do it. So
really? Interesting. How's the laws?
how is the
When you have to be registered and all this other stuff.
when it comes to spirituality, you just need to have a regular trade license, and they don't really ask any questions. It was actually funny. When I was registering myself as a trade license, says, "What do you do?" I was like, "I read tarot cards."
Uh-huh.
And she was like, "Oh yeah, sure. That's Article 5, this, like these services. Okay, this is code for it right here. There you go. Here is your license. I'm like,
Really?
yeah.
Impressive.
So, I was expecting I was expecting way more weird looks when I was registering myself. I'm like, okay, yeah, should I just tell her like I'm translating books or something? I'm like, okay, I'm tarot card reader. She's like, you can just write down the code and I'm like, okay,
I'm impressed
cool.
by the code because in the U.S. I am personal services.
Well, yeah, that I guess it's personal service. Like, what isn't?
It's just this big overglorified section because they don't have anything for us here. All right, guys, let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about what courses you're offering, and then let's also talk about your reading on Zodiac.
Try psychic reading on your phone. Your first 3 minutes are free. First, choose a topic or method. Second, choose a psychic. Third, start a call or chat. The first 3 minutes are on us. Install Zodiac Psychics now. Talk to a gifted and trusted psychic advisor.
All right, welcome back. So what courses do you have out there?
I do believe that one of the courses I have there is for clairvoyance and psychic development. So people can try to tap into these things on their own. I do believe that we all have psychic abilities. We just need to develop them and tap into them and not being afraid of tapping into them. I do believe another course I have there is Lenormand, because we've been talking about Lenormand. Courses. So I do believe that one is there too. And aura reading, because people love reading auras. So there is a course that teaches people how to see their aura, feel their aura, and being able to analyze their aura and the aura of others. There's also runes. I love runes. They're still one of my favorite divination methods. So there's a course on runes and Akashic records, to learn how to tap into Akashic records, read them, and being able to analyze them and potentially learn how to change some of the records to change the influence that they have back on a person in their life, and maybe make some positive changes in that, especially with family karmas.
Go into that a little bit, please.
In family karma?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that family karma, that can be so difficult sometimes. I noticed that sometimes people are just keep hitting the same wall over and over again, even if they work on themselves, and they just don't understand, well, why is it happening? I've done this, I've done cleansing, I'm keep getting all my changes, but I'm still hitting this wall. I just keep meeting this one particular specific problem over and over and over and over again. And in many cases, I notice it's because some form of a family karma that can get transferred from a generation sometimes to generation, often connected with like a huge traumas, losses of children, losses of husbands in the wars, and pain and hunger and all that stuff. It often can create like a blockage that then can just get transferred from a generation to generation, and it can manifest in form of, again, meeting some form of unpleasant problems over and over again without understanding why is it's coming from, makes no sense with my life, because it's something that's coming from way back.
Right.
So yeah, Akashic Records is one of the multiple ways how this can be resolved.
Right. What's your thoughts on cell memory?
I think that it exists. My personal experience is that it definitely does exist, because I've seen the problems that it can, that it can do. Like, it's sometimes when, when it's something looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's most likely a duck. And so when you see some certain problems being manifested, and this seems to be the most logical and rational answer, it's most likely is. I'm always saying spirituality is actually very observable, very rational, and very logical. Really, it is. So I do believe it exists. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen the results of it. I've seen problems and situations where this was the most logical and rational solution. And if we try to focus on it and try to remove it, then indeed it created a positive result. So if it quacks like a duck, it's most likely a duck.
Right. And it's most likely a duck that needs its feathers picked off, because a lot of times those things, for me, what I've seen is that when they come through, they're very impactful on the past lives. But it's like carrying your second grade spelling book into your job. Really doesn't help you to be fearful of water anymore. You've already drowned. You've learned that lesson. Now you're in this life living in a city that's surrounded by bridges. Not really helpful.
I think I noticed that I think actually looking at things that natural fears and natural like preferences and non-preferences of person, like something that you've been born with and it doesn't necessarily make sense with your family, like your family is musicians, but who, let's say, do folk music, but you love classical music, or everybody from your family seems to like hot weather, like beaches, but you hate beaches, everything that's sand, that you're like, ugh, and you love being in the deep forest. Like, if you actually usually sit down and write your natural, no, not learn, but natural likes and dislikes, it can tell you a lot about your past life, actually. It can tell you a lot about your experiences in your past life, like hating deserts, love forests, and you're like, also dishes, a natural inclination to tastes. Some people like dishes and food that you hate, and fish, and smells and dishes and tastes that you love. Again, if you put all of that together, it actually starts painting a picture.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. That's 100% a thing. Also, natural talents, things that you've been born with.
Yes. Psychic abilities, all that, most likely.
Born with.
So I see you have a sigil class here. Tell us about that.
Sorry, I have
A sigil class?
Sigil class. Yes, sigils is that was one of the first courses I've done many years ago, because I was teaching it as a physical class in London as well. Sigils are one of the really popular, for those who don't know sigils. It's basically a symbols that you make yourself out of writing down a letter, like a sentence of your desire or what you want to manifest, and then you take the letters, make symbol out of it that represents the whole sentence, but it's one symbol. Very practical. And sigils is just something that is quite popular spell method. It's obviously not as maybe widespread or well known as candle magic, but it's something that is really gaining popularity, especially with a movement called chaos magic. And it's brilliant because it's very beginner friendly. Sigils is something that does not require many tools, and it does not require huge altar setups or candles, anything like that. You literally just need paper and pen to make a spell. And I think the simplicity of it and beginner friendliness was what really got me in the sigils at the beginning. And then I realized a lot of people are drawn to them for the exact same reason. So I decided to make a course about them.
Very cool. Now, that means that your course is stacked then, because you can take sigil magic and then candle magic and then combine them and do a really powerful spell.
Yeah, I think I'm always telling people in my courses that certain people will resonate more with the different methods, because it's like there is no a jacket that fits everybody. So you need to like tune into yourself and realize what you are resonating with. Some people they really resonate with the simplicity and the quickness of the sigils. Some people love candles, so they resonate more with the candles. And listening to these intuitions and these impulses, you can really figure out what types of tools you will be connect that more resonating with you, and then you pick the tools that resonate with you, put into it your desire, and then you get something that is nicely compactly representation of your energy because it all resonates with you.
Right.
That way you're most likely going to get really, really solid results with your spells.
Very cool. Very cool. So you mentioned a movement a moment ago, and you just kind of blinked over it. What type of movement's going on in the magical communities?
Chaos magicians. Chaos magic is it's one of the more modern movements. I would say it's one of the youngest movements. Like you have Wicca, you have witchcraft, then chaos magicians. It's actually a very interesting movement or group of people that they're coming from an idea that basically anything can be a magical tool. Which, technically speaking, makes sense because back in the day, the witches would use what was available, like maybe a rusty nails, or they would use a cologne. The Florida water was a cologne that was used in the area. So they would use what was available and turn it into magical tools with intention. So chaos magic is like, well, why can't we just do it with absolutely anything that's around us that seems to holding some form of energy? So what they did, one of the very famous chaos magician spell was they did spells with a Starbucks cup. So they got the plastic cups from the Starbucks, and they said, well, this is a very well-charged logo because so many people are drinking Starbucks coffee. There's so many energy going into this logo. Let's do magic with it. So it's magic. It's magic that is basically focused on personal experience, no dogma, experimenting with anything around you that you can find and see if the spell works or not, and that's all that matters. So I like chaos magic because it's very non-dogmatic, super inclusive because everybody can use it. Super inclusive, super experimental, super individualistic to person's own experience. So I personally am a big fan of chaos magic, but I know not everybody is.
I'm sitting here trying to figure out the difference. Okay, and this is where I get myself in trouble with the magical community.
That's not difficult to do.
I do it all the time, sometimes for fun. Chaos magic and traditional magic sound very similar because you work with what you got, aka they also call it folk magic. AKA, you work with what you got. It's held off of your own experiences, and it's you experimenting, which I don't see a lot in Wicca anymore. Like, that has really been like this, like, come on, go play. Is one of the lessons I teach my students in Wicca is go play. What can you do with a potato chip bag?
Like I don't know what to tell you. I'm a persona non grata on quite a few traditional magical forums. So
come sit with me. We'll share stories.
It's just like my advice for anybody who is getting into magic: please do not go and listen to online magical communities. You'll get discouraged. You're just going to argue with somebody for no reason, and then you just make yourself angry for absolutely no reason. Like, if you need somebody to tell you don't do the things that you want to do intuitively, just go and talk to your parents. You don't need to go and talk to somebody online. Like, I'm not a big fan of. Again, that's just my personal inclinations. I'm not a big fan
on this one
of like big magical communities, either online and sometimes even in physical life, because I think it just then the focus, instead of experimentation and spells and the rituals, kind of more turns into like the intersocial connections of that group. Mm-hmm. And then we have like a High School Musical rather than like focusing on the magic and experimentation, doing something with it. So I think it's great to have a community of people you can talk to about these things. I think it's very helpful and very great. But I think you need to always keep boundaries before the focus like moves too much on like, oh, she likes him, but he doesn't like her, and she said this about her. Oh yeah, well, yeah, sure, we are bitches coven, but like, no, you are just spending your time gossiping. So yeah, I would say with magical communities, keep it in a, don't overdo it with them. Like, trust me, you don't want to overdo it. And don't argue with magical communities online. You're just going to get upset, and you're not going to convince absolutely anybody. Trust me, I tried for 10 years, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Speaking of magical communities, you do have the Foundation of Witchcraft course.
Yes.
What path, just out of curiosity, is it British traditionalist, Slavic, or just taking it off the top from everywhere?
Basically what is kind of like the same point for all of my courses. I am trying to keep it on something that I called universal modern witchcraft. Nice. So I'm really careful. I don't go too deep into specific like directions, because I think that's the person who takes the course, their own personal decision. That's up to them to realize if they are more going to go in the direction of Levian modern Satanism, or if they're going to go into Gardeniers Wicca, or if they're going to go into chaos magic, or if they're going to go into the direction of voodoo, where they're going to go, or Slavic witchcraft. I'm leaving that up to you. I'm up to them. I'm just giving them like a solid modern witchcraft foundation that is very carefully kept neutral and inclusive, and like non-dogmatic and non-biased. And I'm hoping they will just take that foundation and make the decision where they personally resonate, and just kind of use it as like one of the tools to create their own practice out of.
Okay. I
want it just like all of my courses to just be this puzzle pieces that they took, pick, and mix and create something that's uniquely them. That was my hope all along. That this is going to be that way.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got to take a break, and then when we come back, let's talk about your readings and reading styles. Okay.
Live tarot and psychic readings. Get 3 free minutes on your first session. Find answers and peace of mind anywhere, anytime. Install Zodiac Psychic now and find your spiritual advisor.
Everything was difficult because I was allowing it to be and almost finding more comfort in that chaos.
My psychic advisor really helped me stop and take a breath and look within and be okay with what was happening right now.
Having that 24/7 access is amazing. Just a quick moment to get some clarity.
We are here on a journey and we can't always control it. All we can do is be along for the ride.
All right. So before we jump into prepping your clients for readings, if the student was a brand new baby student, have just learned the word spirituality and wants to explore it, which course do you recommend first?
I would say either my clairvoyance course, if they are more interested in learning, like tuning into the intuition and learning their own psychic senses, or if they like just really want to go straight into like witchcraft and doing spells and learning how to do it, then I would say the Witchcraft Foundation. Yeah. These I would say are like good foundation courses, either one or both, depending on what direction they want to take, because somebody wants to like just be tuning into intuition and develop their already existing senses or control already existing senses. And somebody just wants to, just go straight and doing spells and candle magic and talismans and stuff. So depending which direction we want to go, I would say one of these two.
Okay. So, brand new client. What should they be prepared for when they're having a reading with you? Like, what should they come to the table with?
I would say, again, this is my personal thing. I do not connect through dates of birth, and I'm stating that on my profile. But I usually need just 3 or 4 sentences about the situation. I don't really need much. Usually, just a couple sentences. I need to have the feel for the situation, and then I pull the cards and I combine the feel for the situation with the cards, and then just things start to pop up.
Right.
So I would say at least 3 or 4 sentences about it, so I can connect with the feel of what's going on.
Okay. What are some of the challenges that you deal with clients every day? Like, what's your average okay, it's Tuesday, so everyone's going to be in a mood, and they're all going to have problems with their boyfriends from the weekend. What are some normal themes that you're like, yep, I know how to deal with this. I know how to deal through this.
Well, obviously, majority of my readings are love readings. So it's usually connections with the things connected to love. A lot of the readings are basically asking me about the intention of the other person. That's something I can 100% deal with, because that's very common. People just don't know if the other person is with them just for the fun part, or if they are there for something long term. What's this person planning? If they're planning to ditch them, or if they're planning to stay, that's something I can definitely do. That's I'm doing all the time. I'm also able to answer questions in terms of if there is somebody else, if there is a third party or not. Sometimes the third party is not always a lover, but it can be really nosy family member that's just messing the whole situation up the same way how lover would. So that I can do too. I can also offer them some form of suggestions according to the cards. What the cards are suggesting, okay, maybe now it's the time when you need to talk to them. Well, no, now it's the time to step back and let them come to you. So kind of come up with a strategy how to kind of deal with the situation. That's something I can do. Help them to find, okay, what's the best approach they should take to the situation as well.
And you also do dream interpretation, dream analyzation. Does that tie in a lot of times to how people are also perceiving their relationships?
I would say dream interpretations is one of the things that are more rare. Not many people come to me for dream interpretation. But if they do, they never regret it. Mostly they came to me with not actually. You would be surprised. The dream interpretations are almost never necessarily connected to relationships.
Really?
They're more connected to just dream that doesn't make much sense to them. But I ask them about the dream, and then I ask them about a couple sentences currently what their life is about. And then you start seeing that how incredibly these things are starting to connect together, how things that was just a symbol in a dream that made no sense, if it's transcripted from the dream symbolic language into normal human language, then suddenly it makes perfect sense. And you realize that the dream that was I don't know, some monsters, some weird tunnel, some airplane, some forest, some nonsense stuff, suddenly you realize, well, yeah, the dream is telling you that you are actually really unhappy in your relationship, and you feel like it's really weighing down on you, even though you might telling me that you are really happy in that relationship. The dream says otherwise, or the dream says that you're really suffering at your job, that you're just unable to do your job, and the dream is just a call for help. So they don't necessarily, at least to me, they don't come to me like, oh, I had this dream about this relationship. It's mostly, oh, I had this dream and it makes no sense, but it was very vivid, and I feel the impact of the dream on my energy, but I don't understand what that dream was about. That's almost like always the case when people come to me with dream interpretation, and then we kind of go through the symbolism, and then they connect it with the real life situation and realize what their own intuition is telling them. It just doesn't speak human. It speaks symbols.
Right.
But it's like their own dreams are your own messages from you to you. You just need to learn how to translate them.
Right. And, it's subconscious talking to the conscious in its own form of language. Now, this is something I find highly important in today's readers. Is that you're LGBTQ plus friendly. You read, and you also say in all religions. So you can even help pick out, let's say that your religion has arranged marriages. You can actually help them pick the right mate in that, or the best negotiational style for that.
Yep, I do. And that's something also that is applied to my courses. My courses are taken by people from all religions and from all countries.
Mm-hmm.
I do readings for people from all religions, all backgrounds, all countries.
Mm-hmm.
Like even countries and religions you would consider being a little bit more on the conservative side, they still get reading. They might not talk about it, but they still get reading.
Oh, they get readings on it. They get more readings because they need us because they can't talk about other things.
So yeah, I've done this for so many years, and I do understand at this point now, after so many years, I do understand the cultural context. So if I'm talking to somebody, usually from countries like India, where marriage is not always like necessarily arranged in the Western understanding of that way, but let's say your mom's auntie is having a son who is just the right age, and maybe you want to go on a lunch with him, type of a situations. I understand that. I am aware. I understand that also certain cultures have significantly more stronger family ties than, let's say, we are used to at the West. I get that. Because in certain cultures, when family says they don't like that guy, it's a problem.
Right.
Like in West, you're like, my mother doesn't like him. I don't care. My mom is like, yeah. But no, there's countries where this would be a big problem, and I understand that. So I would like to consider myself understanding of all. I've done readings for pretty much every single culture, every single background, every single age. I do readings from people who are in their early 20s. I've done love readings for people who've been in their 80s, people from literally all around the world, people from different, again, background stories of life. And it's funny because at the end of the day, they have all very similar problems.
They all are basically similar. Now, how are you with non-conformist traditional relationships?
That these are not that common. I would say if I take a big bag of readings, there is going to be more readings that are going to be more on the conservative type of side of relationships, rather than unusual relationship setups. These are not that common, but I've done more than couple. I've done a few readings that have been not between two people, but between four people. And that's 4 times the fun, really. And it was just like this, and it was completely consensual, but it was just like, it was relationship of 4 people. Then I done a couple of relationships of 3 people. I haven't done that many of these because it's not that common, but I've done a few, and it was very interesting. It was basically the same dynamics between, again, like you would have between 2 people. It's just more people in occasion, and so again, it sometimes triple the chaos.
Triple the learning. Well, darling, your links are down in the show notes for those wanting to get to your courses and your profile. When are you normally on Zodiac and your time zone?
I'm usually, if on Zodiac, European times, but with American times, let's say, that's going to be usually around American mornings. So if I go by Pacific, then somewhere between 10 a.m. Pacific to 1 or 2 or 3 p.m. Pacific. Okay. So more like around noons of American times.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, darling. And I'll see you guys next week. Comment down in below what you were enjoying about this week, and we'll see you later. Bye, y'all.